Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Hello again, St. Lucia, and welcome to the program Agriculture on the Move. My name is Phillip Sydney. I will be with you in the next half an hour introducing this program. Today the topic is Caribbean Aqua-Terrestial Solutions Program. The theme, from ridge to reef. While you digest on that mouthful introduction, I would like to introduce you to my guest, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Mandy, St.Rose, the Ridge to Reef Liaison Officer on the Caribbean Aqua-Terrestial Solutions Program and the GIZ.
My name is Lyndon Robertson. I am the head of the Environmental Health and Sustainable Development Department of the Caribbean Public Health Agency based in St. Lucia.
Well, Mandy and Lyndon, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
For taking your busy schedule to come in here to discuss and to let St. Lucia know about the program. Thank you again for coming. St. Lucia, I know by now you're wondering, what are we talking about? But just to give you a little insight, we'd like you to view a video, and after we'll get into our main meat for discussion. Please view.
Expansive tropical forests, majestic rivers and mangroves, lush seagrass beds, colorful coral reefs, and great people. Welcome to the Caribbean. Our small Caribbean islands boast wonderful ecosystems. And they're not only beautiful, they also provide us with needed resources for farming, fisheries, forestry, and tourism. From the ridge to the reef. But wait, pollution from households, manufacturing and farming, as well as poaching and overfishing, are undermining the health of our ecosystems and our livelihoods with it. Yet it doesn't end there. The fact that we change the climate makes the situation worse. The ocean will continue to warm and acidify, and the sea level is on the rise. This will not only threaten coral reefs, it might also intensify hurricanes. And resulting storm surges will be further intensified because of higher sea levels. It will force the destruction of mangroves and seagrass beds that are a good defense against beach erosion, especially when coral reefs are being destroyed. In addition, it is very likely that heat waves will occur more often and last longer, while extreme rainfall will become even more intense and frequent. Floods, droughts, and landslides will follow, leading to soil erosion and sedimentation that undermine our water storage capacity and compromise the availability of our fresh water. In a nutshell, existing problems will become worse, and they all have to do with water. All economic sectors, including agriculture, mining, energy, manufacturing, and tourism, depend on the availability of adequate water resources. Importantly, clean water is the very foundation for our health and the biodiversity of our environment. Clearly, the exposure to hazardous chemicals and sewage threatens human health. The same is true to biodiversity. For example, marine environments, including coral reefs, are vulnerable to smothering with eroded soils, chemical pollution coming from the hillside down to the sea. Also, the removal of trees in the forest leads to the transport of sediment by water to the coral reefs, which smothers them. This is why we need to work together, from the ridge to the reef. So, paradise lost? No. There are things we can do. First, let's work together. Why? Because everything is connected. We can plant trees within watersheds to reduce soil erosion and increase rainwater absorption. We can also reduce the use of chemicals in households, agriculture, commercial and industrial operations, and untreated sewage. That will help to reduce the pollution of our Caribbean waters. For marine life, for tourism, and for farming, let's improve our water and wastewater management. Most importantly, we have to work together to preserve our wonderful environments, our livelihoods, and our health. Government, the private sector, and civil society all have a role to play. Climate is changing. Working together from the ridge to the reef is the way to go. Now let's solve current problems to prepare for future challenges. That way, our kids too can say, the Caribbean, what a great place.
Welcome back. Now you have consumed and digest the content of that video. I will now turn attention to Mr. Lyndon to tell us a little more about the Caribbean Aqua-Terrestial programs, what it entails, when was it conceptualized. Give us a full background.
Okay, the program, the Caribbean Aqua-Terrestial Solution Program, which we commonly refer to it as the CATS program, is an initiative of the Federal Republic of Germany and the CARICOM Secretariat. It is a program which looks at or focuses on the management of natural resources and building resilience and adaptation to climate change. So the Caribbean Public Health Agency, which is the technical arm of the CARICOM Secretariat with responsibility for protection of human health and environmental management, has the responsibility under the CARICOM Secretariat to jointly implement the CATS program with the German Development Corporation. So our Environmental Health and Sustainable Development Department, which is based in St. Lucia, out of this department, we are jointly implementing that program with the GIZ office also embedded within our department. The program was conceptualized way back as 2012, and it actually started in 2013 as two components. The component one, which looked at adaptation to climate change in agriculture and rural economies, and the component two, which focuses on the conservation of marine and coastal resources and biodiversity. So under that program, we work in 8 English-speaking CARICOM countries. We have 2 continental landmasses, Belize and Guyana. We work in the Alaja Island, which is Jamaica, and we have 5 Eastern Caribbean islands. Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, and St. Kitts and Nevis. So what we are doing under that program is that we are undertaking interventions in concert with national partners, national focal partners, whether it be the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of the Environment, in some cases agencies, water resources agencies. And these interventions are meant to protect natural resources, to protect the environment, and also to protect human health. I would allow Mandy to give you an example of some of aspects that are ongoing in agriculture and the terrestrial side, and I would interject with some aspects that are going on the marine and coastal side. Now, what we have realized is that the protection of natural resources, and because we are dealing with continental land masses and small islands where you have that interconnectivity between the terrestrial realm and what is going on in the marine and coastal space, we cannot manage or have interventions in isolation. So hence the term the ridge to the reef. So our interventions are looking at protection of the terrestrial and land side, and also the marine and coastal side. And what we are doing is that we are preventing whatever poor practices that are ongoing on the land side, we are preventing that from affecting the marine space.
Okay, hold that point. We'll do for our first break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
A smart family is a healthy family, and a healthy family eats smart. Fresh local meats and poultry are the best choice for your family. Our methods ensure that you can trust that they're packed with all of nature's nutrients, fresh from your local farmer. St. Lucia certified meat and poultry producers meet every government standard for health and safety. Choose a healthy lifestyle for your entire family.
To stay at the peak of my performance, I buy fresh St. Lucian local produce. Eat fresh, buy fresh.
Fresh local food products straight from the farm to your plate.
We eat fresh St. Lucian bananas. Eat fresh.
St. Lucia's farms produce an abundance of fresh quality foods, highly nutritious and incredibly tasty. Wise choices when it's most important. Healthy families. Buy fresh, eat fresh.
Welcome back to the program. I'm sure by now you have understood where we are going with this program. We're talking about land and we're talking about the marine life. We're talking about the effect of what's happening on land. If there are negative effects, of course it impacts negatively as far as marine is concerned. Lyndon, I've heard enough from you for now. I think it's wise to give Mandy some time. Mandy, let's look at your intervention, your program, as it marries with Lyndon's. Tell us a little more from your end.
Okay, so as Lyndon said earlier, a lot of our interventions, or the focus of our interventions, is on cleaning up or assisting our land users in addressing their practices on land in such a way that they have a more positive effect on the quality of our marine life. So we have undertaken interventions within our different islands and our different our mainland continent countries, including, for example, the biogas digester intervention, which we've done in both Grenada and St. Lucia. This was to address the wastewater issue. So commonly, swine farmers would dispose of the waste from cleaning their pig pens directly into the waterway. So the biogas digester initiative, it's not a new initiative.
It's not, no.
So what we've done with it is that we have scaled it down, the construction maintenance of it, to a level where the normal farmer can construct one himself and maintain it himself. So we actually are trying to bring it to a level where it's not too difficult to implement. So that's one of those, one of the interventions. Another area we looked at was the fact that our agricultural sector tends to use a lot of fertilizers, chemical fertilizers. So we've done training with all our farmers within, where we work with specific farmers groups that we would have pre-selected, or different persons from the outside. So we would have worked with them. Recently we did some training in Grenada where we would have brought in persons from St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Vincent, and we did some natural pest control and biostimulant training. We also did that same training in St. Lucia with Bellevue farmers and other persons within the community. Moving forward, we're going to be also doing some more training on that. We did composting training. The composting is a lot related to the soil health and adaptation to climate change. So we did training with Bellevue farmers again on composting. We've also done, that's on the line of climate change resilience, some mushroom cultivation training. The mushroom cultivation training was, well, it came up in our attempt to link interventions. So we had done cocoa production, organic cocoa cultivation training with the farmers, and we recognized that coming out of the cocoa production, you have the shells from the cocoa. So we thought that it would be a good idea to look into the possibility of recycling the cocoa shells and including that as the substrate for growing mushrooms. And mushrooms in themselves, they're not your conventional agricultural crop that is dependent on your ambient temperature, your rainfall and everything in order to be produced. So it gives the farmer the option of being able to control the growing area. And so we've trained 11 farmers, and moving forward the objective is that a few of them, we've had like 4 of them, we're looking at focusing on them, that they would be able to go ahead and start their own mushroom cultivation.
But there was another intervention where you all did something with farmers in terms of soil and water conservation, and that's one. But I'm wondering, you all are specifically in the southwestern end of the island. Why Soufrière and Choiseul area?
Well, since our program is an aqua-terrestrial program and we have a Ridge to Reef theme, we would have needed to be linked to a marine entity. And the SMA, Soufrière Marine Management Association, they are, well, more the pillar of marine management when it comes to, and the example of marine management when it comes to that area. So it was pretty obvious that this was the area that we would have focused on, and the hinterlands to that, which would have been the Soufrière watershed and whatever other areas would have affected that particular marine space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lyndon, in terms of the other assistance that you have given, can you elucidate a little more?
Yes, well, let me just backtrack a little on the connection between the Ridge to the Reef and why a health agency and a development cooperation. In that the reduction in the chemicals and reduction in the amount of nutrients entering the environment would actually protect the marine resources, in that we have less pollutants going to the waterways and emptying into the marine space. Now, that is as a result of good agricultural practices, the use of composting, and it also reduces the exposure to chemicals that could have an effect on human health, that could actually compromise human health, the extent of which we don't even know. So our interventions are actually preventative. Now, with the marine space and our interventions in the countries, and for example in St. Lucia, we have recognized, and the literature points to it, that the marine protected area or marine managed area, for example the SSMA area, is the best way going forward for the protection of marine and coastal resources. As a result, we have partnered with the agencies like the SSMA in the respective countries or in other islands with the relevant government agencies. And we have looked at developing the institutional framework and the capacity within these agencies for the management of marine and coastal resources. We have looked at legal and organizational frameworks. We have looked at sustainable financing mechanisms. We have also looked at communication strategies and plans in order to build the necessary awareness among the resource users and the public in order to protect these resources. And we are working, based here in St. Lucia, but a lot of our interventions in this regard, they are mirrored in the other countries. So we are guided by the priorities of the countries. In Guyana, which is a continental landmass, we have been working with the Iwo Krama National Park.
Hold that. that point. We're moving fast and furious.
Yeah.
We do for a second break.
Sure.
You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon for the continuation of the program.
St. Lucia is blessed year-round with an abundance of fruits. But do you know that most of them go to waste? Here's an opportunity to invest either from a small to a large-scale agro-processing enterprise. You can contact the Ministry of Agriculture for further information.
Welcome back. Lyndon, going forward, I know, of course, there are lots of success stories, listening to Mandy, and I know a couple of them. What's the way forward now for that program? How long is that program going to be in existence?
Well, the first phase took place between March 2013, and it would end at the end of July 2017. As of August 2017 to March 2020, we would be entering a phase 2. The evaluations were conducted, and we were successful in acquiring additional funds, additionally 4.5 million euros, in order to move forward with the phase 2. So we would be building on the successes of the phase 1, and as we move forward over the next 3 years, we would also be looking at tightening that link between the terrestrial realm and the marine space for the enhanced protection of resources. Additionally, our interventions to build resilience to climate change, which is something that is affecting our region and affecting the agricultural sector and affecting all our resources. In fact, our entire way of life.
True.
We would be working with our partners in order to come up with priority interventions. We have already started the consultation, and we are looking at a regional meeting with all the relevant partners in order to set the priority and develop something we call the operational plan over the next 3 years to take us forward. So some of the interventions may be similar, some may be different, some may be complementary to what is already existing that we need to build on. So within all our countries, we have already noticed that water resources management is something that is very important, and important both for drinking, for sanitation, and also important for the agricultural sector. We have approaches for irrigation system and innovation in agriculture that would be sustainable, and also there would be good practices reducing the pollution load to the environment and also having that positive spin on the health of people.
That money you spoke about, is it for the Caribbean or is it specific for St. Lucia?
It is for 8 countries.
8 countries.
And the allocations would be based on the interventions when we have that regional conference where we would develop the priority areas. Then the allocations would be per country based on what we need to do within the respective territory.
Mandy, from the Ministry of Agriculture standpoint, I know you've been getting a lot of assistance from agriculture. Moving forward, what programs are there in light of what Lyndon said?
Okay, so moving forward, we're looking at strengthening not only the links between the different countries, but also strengthening the links between the different interventions. So some of the issues that we're looking at working on or focusing on are tightening the links between the wastewater treatment that we're doing with the digesters, with the composting, with the natural pest control and biostimulants, and bringing it not just to the awareness of persons that it's important, but then also adding data to it. So we want to be able to say that, okay, so you're treating the wastewater coming from your pig pen, but that wastewater can also be used as a fertilizer by farmers. So the solids that you extract from the digester, they can now be added to your composting. So we realize that for the interventions to be resilient, for them to be sustainable, we need to really link them. The other thing we've recognized is that there's need for stimulating livelihoods.
Yeah,
because it's one thing to say that you need to conserve the environment, but there also needs to be some buy-in, and the general buy-in is that there's something lucrative from it. So we've already worked with, during our first chapter, we worked with the Jacko Valley Foods. It's a group in Forcejac under the Forcejac Development Committee. So what we've helped them to do is to link with the Bellevue farmers, and moving forward we're going to be looking at having them not only to link with them but then also to contribute to the whole composting issue.
So are you saying the farmers and the other stakeholders, they have seen benefits from the first program?
They have seen benefits, but the other thing I need to say also is that when we have those types of interventions, when you have those technical support agencies helping out different local agencies, a lot of the success of the interventions depends a lot on the recipients or the beneficiaries of those of that support. So it will, in the final analysis, it's going to be very dependent on them and whether they actually carry through on everything that they would have gotten support on.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, final words from you, sir, because we're going to the end.
Moving forward, we would capitalize on the knowledge transfer and the technology transfer between the respective countries. We have started, and it is something that is very successful, and we would continue. For example, the resource persons from the Ministry of Agriculture in St. Vincent and Grenada have been interacting and have been exchanging and have been moving from one country to the other, providing that support and that technology transfer, because what we have is a lot of common problems within the territories.
Okay.
So we are grateful for the Ministry of Agriculture to provide this in-kind support and to continue to provide that to the program so that these experts based in St. Lucia, whether it is natural pest control or composting, would move to the other territories and teach and impart the knowledge they have to their partners.
Do you all deal with individual farmers, or you all deal with groups alone?
Support-wise, groups.
Groups. And then, of course, with the groups, you're able to give equipment and stuff like that. And so, because I noticed you give Bellevue quite a lot. Yeah.
Yes, we did. We did.
So that's the way to go. Because I suspect dealing with individual farmers, that might be a problem.
It would.
Yeah. So you all have seen success. Any final words from you, madam?
So I really need to thank our Ministry of Agriculture in St. Lucia, especially through Dr. Jaria, who has really helped us. I mean, whenever we have need for support on any of our interventions, he's able to just quickly direct us to wherever we need to go. Our partners, we're really thankful for the opportunity to have been able to help them with their different initiatives, and we really hope they actually in the future are able to sustain them and keep everything going. And who else? What should I say? And then also also a lot of the persons from the Ministry of Agriculture who have supported us. I mean, Region 6, we have Eloy, we have Quint, Odlum, we have Thaddeus, we have
engineering division, persons. Extension
and
division.
Then also the other thing I need to say is we also have a national program officer who works on together with us in Sufred. That's Mr. Dominic Prosper. So he's the more grants person in St. Lucia who would be moving forward.
Well, thank you very much, Mandy and Lyndon, and I wish you all success in your second phase, and I hope, of course, the farmers benefit, and of course, the coastline people too. I mean, talk about SMMA. I hope they benefit because it's a linkage. Again, as we say, it's from the ridge to the reef. Thank you very much. You've been watching Agriculture on the Move. I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for viewing the program, and of course, continue viewing the program on a regular basis as we bring it to you. Thank you again. I'm Phillip Cindy saying goodbye and see you again. Thank you, man.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.